In October 2020, we made history at the Southmorton Boxing Club by staging the world's first behind-closed-doors white-collar boxing show. We got over 10,000 views on the night across 103 countries. Now we're bringing the live rumble back, bigger and better than before. Follow the fighters in the build-up and vote on the night for your favourites. See all the thrills, spills and skills from the best in white-collar boxing, live and free at the KO Cup.
Okay, Peter, so today I wanted to talk about Whyte Povetkin 2, which has now been scheduled for the 6th of March. So an exciting fight that we've been waiting for a while. It seems to be perennially delayed, this fight. If you remember, the first fight was supposed to take place in March, and obviously we had COVID. It was put back, it was put back, it was put back. It eventually took place in Eddie's Garden, and it was the final fight, and that left uppercut from Povetkin was the final punch of Fight Camp. You know, a great sort of, a pandemic breaking sort of experiment that Eddie did. And then they were going to fight in November. Then it's been put back, it's been put back, it's been put back. And now here we are, March the 6th. So it looks like it's going to happen on March the 6th. So I wanted to talk about that fight, what we're looking at, what's going to happen. And also I wanted, and you'll have to bring in here, the perennial sort of sun around which the boxing planets revolve, which is Joshua Fury, because it does have a relevance to the meaningfulness of Povetkin Whyte. So the first thing to say is that Eddie's been out globetrotting apparently and is saying that Joshua Fury will not take place in the UK, definitely not the first fight, probably not the second fight, because it's going to be a 2-fight deal. He's been off in the Middle East. He's saying that the UK is out, the reason being that obviously professional boxing is suspended in the UK. The board suspended it at the start of January, citing the fact that the medics and paramedics and doctors at ringside were needed in the NHS. They couldn't justifiably license shows under their jurisdiction. They're now saying that in mid-February that shows will restart. But as with everything in this pandemic, we're not sure. So if you're going to have a show in March, it's going to be very difficult. You're definitely not going to have any crowds. You can pretty much certainly say you're not going to have any crowds. So it looks like that fight is going to go somewhere else. But Joshua Fury really needs a live gate. Without the live gate, you're talking about a 15 million live gate, and it's just not going to happen in the UK in the May-June timeframe. So Eddie's been globetrotting. He's also said the US is no good. Now, even though there are crowds coming back in the US, Eddie said this fight basically needs government sponsorship to go in. So, I mean, it's great when you heard that. You're like, really, government sponsorship for a fight? I mean, this is going back to the days of like the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thriller in Manila, when, governments would buy the fight to kind of sports wash, as they call it, their country and say, look what a great place this is. So he's talking about Middle East. Middle East for Fury Joshua in May, June. So venue and precise date to be confirmed. It's looking like Saudi is the front runner, with Dubai sort of second place at the moment. And the Saudis, if they want it, they'll get it because they've got the deepest pockets. So that looks like it's going to happen May, June. So obviously we have Whyte Povetkin coming up. Now, the interesting thing about Whyte Povetkin is apparently Whyte has said he wants crowds. So Eddie has now said, again, with his second sort of pandemic breaking run of shows, he's put in 5 shows starting in mid-February. The UK shows are all going to be at the Wembley Arena. That's yet to be confirmed with the board, but I can't see them having any objection to that. London has the best medical practices around, so that's probably going to be at the Wembley Arena. So all his UK shows with Josh Taylor and so on are going to be taking place there, and he's got some great fights lined up for that. Obviously, Joshua Fury will be in the Middle East, and then Whyte Povetkin. Whyte is apparently the one saying he wants a crowd. So Eddie's, again, globetrotting and said, OK, well, there's a couple of places we could get crowds. Obviously, there's the Middle East. He's also talking to Monaco. He's also talking to Gibraltar. It's an interesting kind of thing, really, that Whyte is the one saying, I want a crowd. It's almost like he's kind of reaching out for the reason that uppercut connected. And is he saying that he switched off because there was no crowd? And that's what he thought, was the reason. Because, I don't think he can do that. I don't like if he's reaching out for excuses before the fight. But anyway, so it looks like that fight is going to be abroad, and it's going to, because there are going to be crowds, and it's going to be the 6th of March. The interesting thing as well is what happens after this fight. Now, as you know, Whyte was the perennial WBC #1 contender. Then he was upended by Povetkin, who is now the WBC #1 contender. Obviously, Povetkin's been offered a lot of money by Hearn to take this rematch with Whyte and not wait for his shot at Tyson Fury, knowing as he does that WBC champ Tyson Fury will be tied up in 2 fights with Joshua next year. But then, so you think Whyte will get his #1 slot back if he beats Povetkin, but Eddie's now saying what he wants Whyte to do after he beats Povetkin is going with Deontay Wilder, which seems like a really dangerous fight. Whyte's been rolling the dice all these times, and he finally came unstuck against Povetkin. He goes in against Wilder. We don't know what sort of Wilder's going to come out of the corner after that beating by Fury, but we can be pretty sure that he can still pop. He's still got a hell of a bang on him. And obviously, after what happened with Povetkin, does Whyte really want to be in that situation with a larger fighter this time as well? So, that's an interesting development. It's almost like Hearn is trying to keep Whyte away from Joshua. So he's sort of saying, well, he's going to fight Povetkin and then he's going to go on to this. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But so coming into the fight, we know we've got March the 6th. We know it's going to be abroad, one of those venues. How's it actually going to play out? Now, this is the interesting thing. I mean, the first thing to always go back to before you actually look at the original fight is how do rematches generally play out. And if you look at 8 out of 10 rematches, what happens is the first result is reinforced. Now, what I mean by that is it's more emphatic. If it's a close 12-round points loss, it's a big 12-round points loss. If it's a midway stoppage, it's an early stoppage. So whatever the result was, it's normally underlined in the rematch. So, but what's going to happen with this rematch? And also, is it sensible to go straight into a rematch? As Whyte said he wanted as soon as he got out of that ring in August, so I want to go straight back in. It was scheduled for November. Is it sensible to go straight back into the rematch without addressing maybe the problems that caused the loss in the first place? But that's what Whyte's determined to do. So how is this fight going to play out? Well, the way I see it, I can't see it playing out any other way than the first fight in terms of styles. Because even after what happened in the first fight, you've got to say Povetkin was probably not going to win on points. It's not his style. Whyte was fighting from the shooting from the outside. He's got a longer jab. He's got a better jab. He's got a brilliant jab. Use the jab, work behind the jab, keep it long. Move back, and Povetkin's got to get inside. He's got to get inside and work inside Whyte. And really, so he's not going to win on points, but he's got to get in. And when he gets in, cause some serious damage. Now, that's what happened. But you remember how Whyte was dominating that fight for the first 4 rounds and knocked Povetkin down twice. Even though he didn't look particularly hurt, Povetkin looked more annoyed than hurt. Whyte can still hurt him. So what's the attitude going into this fight? Well, sensibly, like I say, boxing orthodoxy, Peter, you've got to say to Povetkin, you've got to do what you did last time. You've got to weave and move, get inside, work with the uppercuts, and then, you've got to box exactly the same fight that you did last time. To Whyte, you've got to say, we'd like you to box the same fight, but keep it longer. Don't back. Try not to get caught on the ropes where you can't back away. Interesting enough, Whyte was looking for that left uppercut all through the fight as well, and was scoring with it very well, but wasn't causing the sort of concussive damage that Povetkin managed to do. And it's also what's in Whyte's head. How does he feel? Did he feel it was just a fluke shot that will never happen again? Does he feel he needs to work on blocking those uppercuts? Did he feel the lack of crowd was an excuse? I mean, how exactly is he going to feel about this? Because he's been very aggressive in talking about this fight. And also, if you look at this rematch, we look at obviously recent rematches where the result was reversed. The main one is Joshua. Joshua against Ruiz. Now, Joshua changed his style for the second one. He was a lot more cautious, a lot more conservative. He played to his strengths. He used his footwork to never get caught up against the ropes. He was constantly moving left and right. He used his jab to set up the jab 1-2. As soon as Ruiz got in, he would grab. He changed his style, and that style carried on in the Pulev fight. And Whyte was very critical of that. Whyte was like, what's this guy doing? Pulev's tiny, Ruiz is tiny. Why doesn't he just unload on them? But obviously, Joshua has shied away from gunfighting, which is what happened with Ruiz when he first knocked Ruiz down. He was like, right, let's have it. Let's have a shootout and I'll win. And obviously, he came off second best. So, but Whyte is very much saying no. He's been critical of Joshua. So if he goes in there and plays conservatively behind his jab, how's that going to sit with his fans? And is that Whyte anyway? He's very much said that he feels. Now he says he feels Povetkin duped him into a false sense of security by playing Mr. Nice Guy. He now sees his true colours. But again, to me, that's reaching out for an excuse. The man came in to knock you out. He may have come in to knock you out with bad intensity. He may have come in to knock you out with good intensity. It was the same thing. It's a boxing match. You can't just be nice because the guy had a smile. So yeah, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen from Whyte's mentality and Whyte's perspective. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen from Povetkin's mentality and Povetkin's perspective. It could be that Whyte just goes in and decides to have a shootout, and I'm sure Povetkin would be happy with that, but if he boxes like that, as he did against, say, for example, Derek Chisora, hugely entertaining, he could win because he can hurt Povetkin. But, the more concussive power seemed to come from Povetkin. If that happens, by the way, Peter, I think we're in for a fight of the year contender here, because both those guys can stand there, they can have a shootout, they can take shots, they can give shots, and they can both hurt each other. So that's going to be very exciting, although it's not going to be very long. But I think Whyte will come out and box more conservatively. I think he will try and work behind the jab. I think he will try and stay off the ropes. And I think he will have worked specifically on blocking those uppercuts. So how do I think it's going to play out in the final analysis? Well, I think it's going to be similar to the early fight. Povetkin's going to get in. He's got to get in for 12 rounds. If Whyte's going to box from the outside. And Is he not going to get in? Is he not going to get in and hurt Whyte? How is Whyte going to react when that little dip comes in? You know, when Sasha does come in close and dip left, say, for example, is he just going to grab hold? Is he going to really worry? And so on this one, I want Whyte to win, and I really want Whyte to win, but I must say I'm going to stick my neck out. If you remember the last one, we said it was going to be 12 rounds where Whyte was going to pip it, a very hard fight, not a 3-1 fight like the bookies were picking. We said it's a 50-50 fight. I still think it's a 50-50 fight, but after what's happened, I'm going to lean towards Povetkin. You know, I'm going to go 48-52 to Povetkin. I think, you know, he's got that over Whyte. He's got that psychological confidence. Whyte has got that psychological instability. After that, everybody would have it. But I feel the fact that Whyte is saying it was because the crowd wasn't there. It's because he pretended to be a nice guy. I think he's trying to bolster himself rather than have that innate confidence. So, you know, I'm afraid, much as I'd love Whyte to do it, although then I see then Whyte goes on and fights Deontay Wilder. I don't know, but I'd love Whyte to do it. But I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm going to say I'm going to make Povetkin a slight betting favourite in my eyes to finish in the mid to late rounds with a stoppage. I'd say about round 9 this time. So that's my prediction for what I think is going to be a great fight. I've already said, Peter, if they both decide to unload, it could be a fight of the year contender, and either man could win because either man can hurt the other one. So it's a lot of different variables playing in this. It's going to be an exciting fight. You know, you've made me pick, and so I've picked, but let's watch it. It could go anyway. It could go either way. It's going to be a good fight.